Hey, it's Will from EDM Tips, and today I'm going to show you how to make experimental sampled music in a similar style as Fred Again. Now, Fred Again is a London producer who was trained under Brian Eno, so he's got a lot of experience of ambient sound design, sampling the sounds of London and then weaving them into really unique, interesting dance music tracks. I've had a lot of requests for Fred Again over the last few weeks, so I wanted to do it today. And as usual, you can download this project file, all the samples completely free, to pick apart and use in your own track. And this is what we're going to end up with today. So without further ado, let's hop into the door and get it done. Okay, so I've got my magic list here. We've got lots to get through, so let's get stuck in. First thing I'm going to do is set a tempo, 123 I think, because Fred Again's music has got this kind of skippy, almost garage feel to it. So I think 123 is a good BPM. Let's name this bad boy. What are we going to call it? Okay, Fred Again, what are we going to call you? We are going to call you Terry Before. Don't know why, Terry Before. Right, first thing we're going to do after that is get a kick drum. I'm just going to go to my favorites. Really handy to have favorites, and just find a nice solid drum. What we're actually going for in this style is something that actually sounds a bit grungy, a bit real. So we're going to be using a real drum kit soon, very soon. But first I'm going to stick in these 4/4 kicks, so one on every beat. There we go. Lovely, lovely jubbly. There you go, Terry. Next thing I'm going to do is bring in a real drum kit. So I'm going to use Splice for this, but really you can just get a breakbeat from anywhere. And I want to get a kind of funky drum kit that is actually played on real drums. And that's going to impart some character into this sound. And then we're going to chop it up, which is something I don't think I've actually shown on this channel before. So what I'm going to do is look for funky in Splice. And you can get Splice with my affiliate link if you want to help support the channel as well. And now let's have a listen. No, although that is cool, so I'm going to have that because Fred Again's music has got lots of interesting textures and layers, so we're going to have that, and I'm going to bring that in. That was an impromptu little find. I'm going to look for one that I downloaded earlier when I was having a little play. This one. So it's a nice funky groove played on a real kit. It's a nice compression, everything. 90 BPM, absolutely no problem at all. We're going to drag that in. And now we're going to chop it up because we only want certain parts of it. So first I'm going to make sure it's all quantized and synchronized. So it is warped to the correct tempo, which is 90 BPM. I'm just going to select all and quantize it to make sure it's nicely on the beat. And now what we're going to do is just grab a couple of those snares. So let's turn it down so we don't get clipping on the master channel. I like this snare, so we're going to take this. We're going to now just paste it on this track, and that's going to go with our kick, like so. Sounds really basic at the moment, but don't worry, we will be building on that. And now we want to get a hi-hat. That's nice there, just that hi-hat. And we're going to put this on a separate channel so we've got more control. We want all of these drums to be changed in volume independently of each other. So then we've got our hat in between every kick, standard house drum. So now let's check it out. Let's just bring down the tempo a little bit. I mean the volume. Okay, now let's bring in some more of these drums. What I might actually do is just have this drum loop running underneath, but just really quiet, and that's going to add a whole layer of texture to this drum beat while still keeping it housey. But we're going to just chop it up a little bit. We don't want one of those beats happening all the time. Cool. Okay, next thing we need to do is add some groove to this drum kit. So the way that we can do that is we can actually, well, we don't need to quantize these because they are already right on the grid. We don't want to take them off the grid, but we do want to add some groove and shuffle to this. So we've chopped it up as we looked at. So what I'm going to do is just consolidate it. That brings it all into one unit, into all one clip. And remember, we quantized it already, so it's right on the groove, but we want to add some of that kind of shuffle to it. So I'm going to go to the grooves here in Ableton, and I'm going to select Swing 16th 64. I just tend to use this one, reach for this one all the time. And now I'm going to drag it onto our funky room drums here. So you can hear it's now skipping. And this is what it was before. Let's just add some of that timing groove. Cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete the snares that are hitting where our snare is hitting, because we don't want them to be doubled up and causing phasing issues by having two of the same sound playing at the same time, and it's just going to be making it louder when we don't need it to be. We want to have this separate control over our main snare hits in terms of the volume. Very important, because that's how we're going to get our mix right. So let's just take out these from our loop. I probably should have done this before I did the groove application, but I think that this is still going to be working fine. We'll just have a little check and listen to it. Okay, cool. Now I want to add a little bit more groove to that low end with a second kick. So we could actually take it from the drum beat itself. So if we just create, but we're going to do it within the kicks. Yeah, so I'm just going to take one of the kicks from our loop. So we've got this kick here. This one, I think. We're going to use this more than how we currently are. So I'm going to consolidate that one beat there, and I'm going to just drag that into our kick drum rack. So now we've got two kicks, our main kick, which we can't hear because it's on taxi, main kick, and then our little funk kick. And I'm going to just use that and make it a little bit tighter. And actually, I know that Fred again does a lot of work when it comes to the transients of kicks. So if we add a little bit of attack, it's going to soften this sound. And we're going to add a low pass filter to it as well. And we might do that for our main kick too, to make it a bit softer and a bit more lo-fi. That sounds better. And now let's just add this groove to the kick track as well, because we want that same groove to be applied to all of our tracks basically. And then let's just add a couple of extra kicks. So this just adds a really nice kind of warehouse feel, house music feel. So this is without that secondary kick. Cool, but not as cool, right? Okay, now we need to bring this these drums to life a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually group all of them together. We haven't actually used this drum machine, so we'll just delete that. Firstly, let's color these green, the natural color of drums in the environment. Let's name them as well, keep things nicely organized. So we've got snare, snarf, snarf, and then we've got hat. Yes, that was a reference to Thundercats. One of my favorite programs of all time, actually. One of my favorite things in the world. Right, now this is our funky drum break. Funky break. And now let's just bring some energy to these. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to group all of these drums together. We're just going to call this drums. And then we're going to add this drum bus, which is basically several processing plugins all in one. And it only comes with Ableton, but it's basically compression, saturation. And so if you're not using Ableton, you can recreate a similar effect. And now let's just feed some of this in. snare's a little bit loud. I'm going to add a little bit of snap to that snare with an EQ. I might take out some of the low end as well. Don't need it. Just adding a little bit of snap to that snare. And then with the hat, we might have to take out some of that low end as well, because it's from a sample, remember? So you've got all this low end rumble that we just don't need. But some of it adds some character, and let's just add a little bit of boost. Okay, let's do it. So now we've got a nice kind of housey groove there. Next thing we've got on the magic list is bass. So we've done the processing, let's create bass. This is where we want to really decide what vibe this track's going to be in terms of the key, what chords it's going to be hitting. I'll do the bass notes first, and then we'll work out the chords based on that above, and then we'll get into all the fancy vocal sampling and processing. So awesome. Right, I'm going to do this just using the stock plugins, I think. So let's go for the wavetable. Okay, that's a G, so I'm going to make this in G sharp minor. So to make things easy, I can press the scale button. We'll go G, G minor, I think, not G sharp minor. And now if I hit this scale button, only the notes from that scale are going to be showing here. So I can't really hit a wrong note. But before I continue, let me know if you're enjoying this so far. Give me a hell yeah or an amen, brother. And I'm just going to check it's actually recording. Would you Adam and Eve it? It is recording. Right, let's get these notes in. G, that's what we're starting on. So I'm going to start on the root note of the track. It just makes it easier. You don't have to when it comes to chord progressions, of course, but let's just do that. I'll take it down in volume a little bit. We don't want it clipping on this master channel because then it's all going to sound distorted and nobody wants that. Maybe I'll take this down an octave. No, it's a bit too low, so we'll do it here. And again, if you've got scale mode selected, it's easier. I'm going to add a little bit of interest in those drums as well soon, so don't worry about that. But first, let's finish this bass line. I think 8 bars long is good. So this is our progression. We'll put this down an octave though. Okay, now we've got our main sub bass with just a standard sine wave. Let's see if it sounds better lower by an octave or not. I think so. Yeah, that's deeper, that's lovely. Now we're going to create a secondary bass that's going to add some upper harmonics and interest to this, because this is a pretty standard, sound. It's basic, which brings that sub power, which is exactly what we want it for. But we want to add a little bit of grit in this mid-range. So I've just duplicated that bass. Let's call that mid-bass. And let's add some distortion to that, because I know this is something Fred again does as well, is use standard sine waves, simple sine waves, just add some distortion, which you're going to hear is going to add some upper harmonics. Which is cool. But what I want to do is add some width to this. So what I'll do is just group that overdrive. And if this is a bit complex for you, you can check out my accelerator program. I'll walk you through all of this step by step and show you how and when you should apply it. But let's carry on anyway. So we've got 2 chains. I'm going to change them slightly, and then I'm going to pan them left and right. And that difference in signal is going to allow us to create a stereo sound. Okay. Taxi. So now we've got this lovely wide stereo sound. Okay, right, let's take out some of the low end, because it's just the upper harmonics we're really listening out for that we want. Just to add some width and interest to our bass. So now let's bring this in. Maybe we should put this up an octave as well. No, that sounds rubbish. Okay, now let's build the chords out. I'm going to group these together, call this bass, and we're going to just duck it slightly with this sidechain trigger. All that is just a very short, sharp sample that you never hear because it's set to sends only, and we're going to be using that as a sidechain trigger to duck the bass. And the way you can do that is just put a compressor on your bass group, open up this little button, press sidechain, input from sidechain, and then just duck it like so. Just a little bit. Cool, and now with the drums I'm going to add a glue compressor as well, just to gel it all together a little bit more. Okay, that's sounding pretty dope. Now next thing we need to do is get some chords on the go before we get into the fun stuff with the vocals. Now we've built our bass line, we can just build the chords up from beneath that, above those bass notes. So let's cover that cyan, the natural color of synths in the wild. We all know this, guys, come on. This is basic stuff. One of the first things they tell you in the Ableton manual of synth colors. Okay, now we're going to just copy those bass notes over, like so. Whoops. Not yellow, cyan. And now we can just, using this scale technique, this template technique, we just need to skip a note each time, and that's going to build up some basic triads above these chords. But I'm just going to do it slightly differently today, because I want a particular vibe. Let's first put this up. We need an instrument on there. Stat. Doctor. Get me another wavetable. Get it on there now. Aye, aye, Captain. You're the boss. Yeah, I am the boss, Doctor. Thanks for recognizing that. Right. So we're just going to start with a basic saw wave like this. And it is a saw wave this time, guys, not a triangle wave or a square wave, which you so kindly pointed out last time. So let's just build these chords up. Skip a note each time. But I'm going to do it a bit higher. I'm going to do the whole thing up an octave. And let's get this selected. These are the notes I want to hit. Just the triad. The root triad of the track, which is the G sharp minor chord. And we're just going to play that and just maintain it, and it's going to sound sweet with those bass notes changing. And I might change a couple of the notes up and down as well. Let's make it. Yes. Oh, hello. We got a heart melter in the house. This chord. It's almost too nice, if anything. And let's just finish this off. I think I'll just hold that there. Cool. So you can see I'm just using the notes from within this scale. And this is what happens when we add a little bit of unison, which just doubles up and detunes the voices. And this is what we got. Yes, acceptable. SC comp, let's just copy that, get it on those chords too. Okay, we're getting a vibe now. So next thing we're going to do is just add a little bit of reverb to these chords using an auxiliary channel. I've just got a standard reverb, boosted up the gain a bit and taken out the low end with an EQ to avoid mud in the mix. And now let's just feed some of the big hall reverb onto these chords and make it sound epicer. And I think what we want to do is just add a little bit more movement to these chords using a filter envelope. So I'm going to go to the second envelope here, because this is the amplitude envelope. This is the second envelope. And we're just going to add a bit of attack. And then we're going to assign that to this frequency using this matrix here. And now we should open up that filter. It's opening up, you can hear. Nice. Okay, I'm not going to keep grooving to that. We've got to crack on, guys. Next thing we're going to do is start adding some of that atmosphere that Fred again's so good at by recording nights out that he's had, just stuff from life on his iPhone. So I'm actually going to use a recording I took in Siem Reap. Siem Reap, I can't even remember what country that's in. Cambodia, I'm pretty sure. So let's get some. No, we're going to use Chanting Buddha from Christchurch. And let's just have a listen to this. Okay. No, we'll use these clang chimes. It was from Siem Reap because I think they're in the same key. So we're just going to use a little bit of that. Let's boost up the gain. You can hear tweeting birds and stuff. And all those kind of gamelan chimes in the background. Awesome. And I'm just going to loop a part of it. And now let's bring it in under everything else and just hear the difference it makes. So we're just adding this little bit of extra texture underneath. I'm going to take out the low end rumble from this. And I recorded this years ago. And it's just adding some texture underneath. Nice. Okay, this is when we get to the fun bit now. This is classic Fred again. I'm going to be using a vocal recording. So what I did, I actually snuck up on my wife earlier and recorded her with the iPhone, and she didn't want to be recorded basically because she hadn't done her makeup or had a shower or something like that. So anyway, I'm going to stick it in and we're going to use that recording. I best turn off the video because she might not like it, but I'm just dragging in the iPhone recording and we'll listen to the audio. It's me sneaking up on her. I know it sounds creepy. It's not creepy. It's art, guys. Art can never be creepy. Fact. It's always been my excuse.
No.
No what?
I'm not showered. I need to shower.
I know, but I just need a smile or a little something.
Okay. All right, that'll do. So I'm just going to loop it again. We just make a little Fred again style loop today, really. Although we will go into some mixing and some arrangement as well. So now let's bring this underneath. I'm going to have to take out the low end because it's quite rumbly.
No what?
I'm not showered. I need to shower.
I know.
Okay, now let's make this more interesting. I'm going to add some reverb and delay to this vocal, but before we do that, we want to create an interesting instrument out of that vocal so we can actually play a melody with it. So we haven't actually used these drums yet, have we? Let's hear what they're doing. We'll probably have to add some swing to it so it's the same groove. So I'll quantize it perfectly first, like that. And now I'll add the same groove that we've added to the other drums. Okay, I don't know if this is going to work. Let's just try it with just the drums playing and the bass, and we'll see if it works, and bring it in a bit. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I'm actually going to drag that into the same, let's call that bell loop. I'm going to drag that into the same group as the drums because I want them to be processed all together and get gelled together with that bus processing we did. So let's drag that into there, and now let's just bring it up quietly. With our chimes. Okay, that's a really cool little sound bed we've got going on. So now with regards to this vocal, let's just find a little bit where there's a vocal tone. Here. Here, we use this. So I'm just going to slice a little bit where there's just one note being said. Yeah, that's cool. We don't need the video. Let's boost up the gain. It's going to be quite loud. And we want to make an instrument out of this. I'll make an instrument out of you yet, boy. So we're going to add vocal instrument. And then we are going to add a sampler on that MIDI channel. And now just drag in this little clip here. And now we should have an instrument out of it. A rubbish instrument, but an instrument nonetheless. So next thing to do to make it not rubbish is to tune it. Now the way to tune it is to just have it loop on one note, because at the moment it's kind of going doo-doo, doo-doo. And we want to just kind of loop where it's hitting one note. So I'm going to change it to a sampler because you've got more loop controls there. That's pretty cool. And now we need to tune that to middle C so that when we play it, it's going to be in tune with the rest of the track. That's very important because obviously this is just a clip of Mila saying something. It's not like she was singing a middle C. So we have to tune this sample to the track now. And the way we're going to do that is just play a note on our chords. That's middle C. And we now need to tune this instrument to be hitting that same note when we press middle C. I mean, it's not perfect, but let's throw on one of these tuner devices and see if it's going to show us the note it's hitting. Well, it's like the Matrix. It's about middle C by the look of things. Okay, so now we want to make this horrible noise into an instrument. So we're going to crossfade it a bit, smooth it out. We're going to change the shape of this. A bit plucky. some release. We're going to take out some of the low end as well. We will do that using an EQ8. Okay, next thing we want to do is add a little bit more movement to this. First, I'm going to take the velocity away from the volume because I just want it to be the same volume with every hit. But what I do want to change is the filter frequency depending on how hard I hit it or how strong the velocity is. So the way you can do that is using the sampler. You can just apply a filter, take it down a bit like so. Assign it to the filter velocity there. So the gentler I hit it, the lower the filter is. The harder I hit it, the more that filter opens up. But first I'm going to do a little bit more processing on it. Let's add some grit with this Redux, which is a bit crusher. It could be easier to just draw one in actually with a normal sound, and then we can switch out that sound afterwards, put in our sample. And now what we're going to do is just program in an interesting rhythm. And if you want to know how to make really interesting melodies each time, you can click on the video that's popping up there at the moment. And I'm just having this melody skip around the drums. Some repetition. And let's just repeat that and then make a change the second time through. And then another change at the end. That's cool. I'm just going to repeat that bit. I really like that. And now let's move this melody over onto that vocal instrument we created and then do something really interesting with the effect. Okay, something's going wrong with the audio. I don't know what it is, but I'm liking how that sounds. What I'm actually going to do is screw that up even more by using the little altar boy. So this is an instrument that doesn't come with Ableton. It is actually Sound Toys, but it's really good for formant shifting and whatnot. So little altar boy, let's just put that on and shift it up an octave. Okay, now we're going to add some interesting delays to that. I don't know what I'm doing, frankly, but I'm having fun doing it. So let's just get the echo on there. And it gets something really interesting. 100% wet because we don't want that auxiliary channel doubling up the dry signal. And let's just feed some of that vocal instrument in. Okay, last thing I really want to do, no, we've got more to do, so I'm going to do more, but what I'm going to do is add some rave vocals on here. So let's just duplicate this a couple of times, because you don't want the whole track just repeating all the time, obviously. So I'm going to get some rave vocals that are going to work with this style, that are just going to happen every now and again. So if we go rave, have a little sip of water, very important for rave vocals. Instruments, vocals, and see what we got. Sounds. What we got in those sounds. Female. Let's see what we got. No. Nope, 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 nope. I mean, that's pretty cool. I wasn't planning to use that, but we're going to use that. So that's B minor, and our track is in G minor. Now B is 1, 2, 3, 4 semitones above G. So all we need to do to make this in tune is just drop it 4 semitones. Let's see if we get the tempo right. Oh, it doesn't say the tempo. Okay, fair enough. So we're just going to drop it 4 semitones once we've warped it. And now it should be in tune with our track. Okay, we're going to have to switch the formants a bit. We could even put this up an octave to see if it sounds, but it's going to sound a bit like a chipmunk. So -4 plus 12, because that's -4 is where we are, which is make it in the key of G minor. And now we want to put 12 semitones on top of that to make it 1 octave above. So that would mean we'd have to change this to +8, but it might sound like a chipmunk, so... Actually, that's perfect for this style. So let's try that with some reverb. As I said at the beginning, Fred again spends a lot of time on his music, adding lots of little different sounds, just massaging them all into place. But I wanted to show you some of the techniques that he uses to do that and some of the thought processes behind it. There's more work to do on this, so I'm going to do that. We've kind of mixed it as well, starting with the bass and the drums, making sure they sound good together, and then bringing in the next most important element, which in this case is the vocal instrument. And then just making sure that everything else works underneath it as well. And here is the finished result. I really hope you've enjoyed that, guys. Don't forget you can download this project file, all the samples completely free. Just use the link below this video. And if you want in-depth coaching with me to get to a truly professional level in as short a time as possible, do check out my accelerator program. We've helped our students get signed to some of the world's biggest labels, tour the world and make money from their music. So if that's something you want to do check it out. And before you go, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to check out this video over here as well, because I think you're really going to like this. Catch you over there.